Remember a couple of years ago when the country stopped what it was doing to watch the marriage of Luke and Laura on the soap opera General Hospital? Now, what made that a television event was the fact Luke was a rapist who had earlier attacked Laura. Well, today's program is about real-life rape victims who, like the fictional Laura, actually fell in love with and even married their rapists. Evelyn did, for example. After a very hard life, a husband who deserted her, and a baby who died, she met a man who later raped her brutally. For reasons she is here to tell us. Ultimately, she married her rapist. So did Marilyn. Marilyn was a virgin when raped. Because her dreams of being a virgin bride were thereby shattered, she decided to marry the man who raped her. Haley has been telling the press, both here and in Canada, that she had fallen in love with a man she saw on television, arrested and in shackles. He was accused of raping a 15-year-old girl in Canada, and he's also wanted in Connecticut for the rape of a 52-year-old woman. Haley, who is here to tell us the real story today, and her rapist fiancé are hoping to get married in a Canadian prison in November. Okay, why do these ladies do it? We're about to find out. Because women who marry their rapists are the focus of this edition of Geraldo. Our society has finally figured out that rape isn't so much a sex act as it is a crime of violence and domination. It's a devastating, degrading assault against women who are overcome either by physical force or by intimidation. Our guests today are rare examples of victims who deal with rape in a highly unusual way. Before we hear their personal stories, let me also introduce Dr. Stuart Fishoff. He is a Los Angeles psychologist and a teacher at Cal State, here to help answer the $64 question, why? I want to start right out, Evelyn, with you. We know you had a very, very tough life. We know that when you were 5 months pregnant, your husband deserted you. When you were 7 months pregnant, you met the man who raped you. Pick up the story there. Tell us how it happened. Tell us how you came to be in the clutches of this man.
I was 23 when my husband had left me. I was pregnant. When I was 8 months pregnant that I had met this guy by taking my child to a park. I'd met him at a park. And we went out for coffee, and he seemed like a very nice person. I was always pretty naive. I always looked for the best in people, and he was nice, so I thought, well, this is fine. We can go out and we can have coffee. He had taken my daughter and I to a circus, which the circus ended up not existing. And when we came home, he raped me, and...
Stop. He took you to a circus that didn't exist. You mean he told you he was going to take you to a circus, you and your daughter, your other child?
Yes.
And in fact, there was no circus?
No, there was not.
Okay. Now, most people in our audience, most people watching at home might say to themselves, well, that would send up the red flags. That if the person had lied about something like that, well, maybe you would become suspicious. But you suppressed your suspicion, and instead, you went to his house?
He had told me we needed to stop by his house to pick up a few things, and then he was going to take me home. We never made it home. He took me home afterwards.
Okay, so you, this man that you met in the park, who took you to the non-existent circus and then took you to his house, and your young daughter all go to his house.
Correct.
Because he makes up this cockamamie story that he has to get something. You go to the house. Somehow, he diverts your daughter and gets you into the bedroom. There, he doesn't come on to you in a romantic way, but rather in a brutish way, right?
Yes, he did.
You resisted?
I resisted. He was bigger than I was. He was stronger than I was. There really wasn't anything I could do. I was pretty well at his wit's end. I didn't want to scream because, of course, I had a 3-year-old daughter that I didn't want to terrify at the time.
So He did with you what he wanted to do.
Yes, he did.
Then you hurriedly dressed.
I dressed and I had it, and he took me home because I lived out in a rural area. I lived probably 40 miles from where it occurred, and he took me home, and he apologized, and he was tearful, and he was saying it would never happen again, and he really liked me.
Remember, she was 8 months pregnant. So he's apologizing. Now Jekyll and Hyde is the benign, the benevolent character. Now he's all apologies.
It was all apologies. He took me home. He said it would never happen again. He slipped me $20 for the gas in my car, and I'm just going, this is really absurd. And I went home. Of course, I cried all night, and I'm going, what am I going to do? I had lost my job when I became pregnant. I was working for the YWCA. Since my husband had left, I was technically unfit to carry on that job.
Tell me why you didn't call the police right then.
Because it wouldn't have done any good. The police, I had gone to his house. I had gone out on a date. He apologized. I believed he was sincere.
You weren't furious at him? You weren't just filled with hatred over this person who had taken you this way?
It's hard to explain. I wasn't really furious. I was more hurt than anything else. I get hurt more than I do angry, and I was really hurt about the whole situation.
The child is born some weeks later. Then you experience yet another trauma in a life that has been marked with disaster and trauma. Your little baby dies.
And she died at 13 days old of crib death. It was a really shattering. It was something that I could not deal with. Like I said, I lived a long ways from the hospital. I had tried mouth-to-mouth. I had tried CPR. It didn't do any good. I called the ambulance. The ambulance came, picked her up, and picked me up. We drove in, and nothing happened. Someone had called him and notified him what had happened, and he met me down at the hospital and was so sympathetic and caring.
So listen, in a shattered life, in a life marked with all these disasters, he comes to you, and he's the sympathetic one now. He's the compassionate one. He's the one who says, oh, poor Evelyn, we are so sorry this happened.
He was the only one that was really there. My parents live in California, and this was quite a few states away. There really wasn't anybody there. My first husband was an alcoholic and a drug addict. It was really hard to form any lasting relationships with any friends because of his bizarre behavior. I mean, he had burnt down my house. I mean...
The first?
Yes. He had done some really strange things.
So you have a knack of picking losers. I mean,
a good knack, I guess.
All right. So now the man is sympathetic. He's attentive. What happens?
Well, I had wished he would have went away at that point. I just wanted to be left alone. I was very suicidal. It was by a river. I wanted to go swimming. The river runs very fast. I just wanted everybody to leave me alone and to get out of the hospital room.
Somehow he gets you alone again.
The night, I don't really recall because it was still really traumatic, and I'm still picking up pieces of things that I have blocked out. It was either the night she died, which I believe it was. My parents were notified. They flew in to help me make funeral arrangements, and they had gotten a hotel room for myself and my daughter and one for themselves. Well, he proceeded to stay over, and my daughter had just died. She was only 13 days old, and he raped me again.
Did you call the police this time?
I was so traumatized while everything was going on that the physical pain was actually easier to bear than the emotional pain that I was going through at the time.
What was your reaction then to this, the second violent rape at the hands of this man?
He apologized again, and then he gave me the sob story of how ill-treated he was when he was a child, and how his mother used to lock him in his room and leave him there for hours and hours while she entertained, how he was never liked. And I was raised to always look for the good in people and not to look on the outward appearance, but to look on the inside. He had had a life that was not full of love and caring, and I always believed that love could cure all, which it doesn't.
And Evelyn, he asked you to marry him.
Pardon?
He asked you to marry him.
He asked me to marry him. I did not give him an answer. When I didn't give him an answer, he told me that if I did not marry him, that my other daughter would disappear also.
So you married him. And
Yes.
your life with him became a continuing installment of exactly what you had suffered. Those two violent episodes. You became a brutal, battering, abusive husband.
Yes. He continued to be brutal. I was so emotional, traumatized, that it was really hard for me to function. All I could think of is just dying. It was very hard to lose a child. I went through it. When I was married to him for 4 months, he started physically abusing my 3-year-old daughter. And when she'd put her elbows on the table or pick up food with her hands, he would hit her across the hands with knives.
Dr. Fishoff is here to help us understand why she responded this way, why the Florence Nightingale approach to a battering, abusive, violent man. He'll help us. We'll hear more of Evelyn's story. We'll hear from the other ladies who similarly have taken the decision, in Marilyn's case, to marry the man who raped her, in Haley's case, to marry a man now charged with 2 brutal rapes himself. The whys, the why. Why would a woman marry her rapist? Our focus. Give us 2 minutes. Come back to Times Square Studios, New York City. We'll be right back. Women who marry their rapists, our focus. I know, Evelyn, you've been to hell and back. I want to ask you a question that's... what was your sex life like with this man, your rapist, who became your husband?
It was really bizarre. He was very kinky in different things. He would rip my clothes off. He would rip my zippers on my pants. I would try and get away. It didn't do any good. I left him about 4 months after.
But was it, in a sense, a continuation of this behavior of rape? I mean, wasn't it marital rape? I mean, he married you. Did he feel he owned you? Was that it? I mean, did he continue? Was it just rape under another name?
He told me the night that we had gotten married, he said that now that we're married, your body belongs to me. And I kind of looked at him like, I don't know where you're coming from,
Your
but...
body belongs to me.
Uh-huh.
Dr. Fishoff, is this romanticism at its worst? Is this a feeling that she's going to somehow convert this guy, or is this just a woman so stripped of everything by the other traumas that she turns to the only guy who shows her affection, even if the affection is punctuated with acts of violence?
I think the problem is having to reframe it away from sex and onto aggression. Sex confuses us. I think that women are confused because of that. I think that for many men, the object of women is sex, and for many women, the object of sex is men.
I don't think I understand that.
Women are taught that they are sexual objects. That's their barter system. And they barter their sexuality for security, for legitimacy. And many of the women up here had real problems developing a positive self-image. Their self-esteem, the self-regard was very low. And so while we're focusing on the brutality of the sexual act is what women have to offer men. If one were to say something to any of these women and say it like this, if these men didn't rape you but simply beat you up, would the same thing have occurred? No. But the sexual element is very seductive to women who need to find a kind of legitimacy, a security in a relationship with a man.
Now, Marilyn, you weren't seduced in any kind of mental way by the guy who raped you as a young lady, as a virgin?
We were dating for about 7, 8 months. He was my first boyfriend. I was a senior in high school. And it was, I would only kiss him. I wouldn't do anything else. And one day he just felt like he wanted more than that.
Now, the reason you would only kiss him was because you were determined, because of your background, your ethical and religious background, to be married a virgin, and on your wedding night,
right,
be, you know, have the marriage consummated.
Well, I was raised as a Catholic, and I believed in that. I was a regular kid in all aspects, except for I was really proud of being a virgin. I graduated from high school is when I was kind of proud of that, and I had a game plan that, you know, goals that I had set up, and one was to graduate from college before settling down.
Before settling down, before marrying, before becoming actively involved.
Right,
in
and he kind of took that away because it was prior to my attending college that he had no permission, and I kept saying no. In fact, I was fully clothed. It went from kissing to the act. I trusted him, though, because we had been dating, and I made it clear to him that I wasn't interested in having any sort of relationship like that. I realized that I was too immature for that. I'd seen what happened to other friends, and I just didn't want to participate.
So essentially it was a date rape.
That's right. Mine could be categorized as a date rape.
And you fought him to the extent that you thought you could. Ultimately, he overcame you physically.
Right. He's a carpenter. So
you don't have to explain away the fact that this guy overcame you. I mean, women don't even have to fight back to be raped. I mean, the fact that you did is another indication of just how abhorrent you found his conduct. What happened then?
I asked him to take me home, and I kind of worried if somebody could look at me and tell what happened. I was rather naive, too. I kept myself, I think, purposely naive. I didn't want to participate in that.
So you didn't tell your parents?
No. Not at all. I was too ashamed.
Did you, as part of continuing that charade then, vis-a-vis your parents and friends, continue dating the man who raped you?
Yes, I did. I felt like I was damaged. I felt like nobody else would be interested in me.
Damaged goods.
Right.
No longer a virgin.
Right.
Deflowered.
Right.
Somehow worth less than you had been.
Old-fashioned, you know, in that aspect. So
with the diminution of your self-esteem and your self-respect, do you say, hey, this is the only guy who'll have me? Tell me, describe that process.
I felt that nobody else would be interested in me, or that they would think less of me that way. I didn't want to explain to anybody else, you know, that I wasn't a virgin. I just didn't want to deal with that. Although when I married him, I knew that I was going to divorce him one day. That seemed more proper. And I'm a very independent person, and I'm quite resilient. I also have a positive attitude, so I knew that it would be okay to divorce him later on, and that's what I did.
Divorce him because he had raped you before you even married?
No, there was a multitude of reasons. He was abusive, not to the extent that Evelyn's ex-husband was. My ex-husband was abusive intermittently. We did have some good relationships during our marriage, and sometimes I thought it would last forever. But I think I carried a resentment to him. I had a resentment of him throughout the marriage.
Well, would you have married him anyway? Let's say that he had followed your game plan. Do you think he was Mr. Right?
No.
He was not Mr. Right?
No, I knew he wasn't. I wasn't really attracted to him physically. I was always kind of ashamed to be with him. After, you know, when I started to know what I really wanted. I think I was too young to know what I wanted, and I realized that.
After he had deflowered you in the time before marriage, did you continue having a sexual relationship?
That was intermittent because we only saw each other like twice a month. He lived geographically, he was about an hour away, so he didn't have access to me. And no, we didn't always, because I didn't want to.
Then came your wedding night. Did you have dreams of romantically altering what seemed a very unsatisfactory situation?
Yes. I thought that we could work things out, because he was a fun person in some ways, you know, and he was sensitive. It was after we married that I found out about his history. He started to be sexually active when he was 12 years old, taking turns with his friend's sister. Then I found out when he was 19 he had an affair with a 12-year-old, and as we were married he told me more things about his past life. I just decided I didn't want any part of him.
We understand why. So you divorced him?
Yes.
Do you still feel deflowered?
No, I'm more independent now. I'm older. I mean, that was quite a few years back. I'm not going to say how many, but enough to have grown and developed and know what I want. I'm very happily married now, 4 years into the marriage.
Well, congratulations.
And I have a really good, solid husband, and he's fun.
Do you see now how bizarre your act was?
Yes, it was very immature. I think I read too many novels. I used to be an avid, well, I still am an avid reader, and I think I read the wrong things. So I just kind of made up. I may have been in a dream world being 17 or, 18. You're kind of, I don't know. And I realized that I was too mature for...
I want to say this to all of you, that I respect the courage that you show coming here and telling us a story that must be extremely difficult. I mean, for God's sake, you didn't even tell your own parents for years and years.
Well, they still don't know.
They still don't know. Okay.
I think I'll talk to my mom tonight.
Yes, I think you will too. But we understand, I mean, in a world where romanticism is so cherished and where romance novels sell so well and where television soap operas are so widely viewed, we understand really how so many people, victims of date rape and other kinds of sexual assaults like this, may tend to, look away from the horror of it and look, is there an upside to it?
Well, the other thing, too, is that I have a lot of girlfriends back then who had the same experience, and it was almost... not quite, but almost acceptable. There was a lot of boys that they had to wrestle off. I mean, it was almost a given thing that the boy was more masculine if he did something like that.
Wrestle off and often lose the battle.
Right.
Yeah. Women who marry their rapists. We'll be back. Stay with us. Women who marry their rapists.
The question I have for Evelyn is what finally made you decide to get out of this relationship, and if you're involved in one now? Because I can understand how women can take abuse themselves, but when a child's involved, I would think that would be the breaking point.
That's what I'm fighting against right now. When he started to abuse my daughter, I left. He consequently kept returning to my place of residence, raping me, cutting my phone lines. Right now, I took off finally. He started abusing. Then I had a child by him due to a rape. And what happened is he had visitation with the child. The child started regressing in behavior when he was about 16 months old. I took him to therapy, found out that there was possible sexual abuse going on.
These guys are such losers, Dr. Fishoff. Why did they stay? Why not call the cops? Why not get a baseball bat and go to work on the guy?
I fought with the court system. The court system, naive as I was, I took in my documentation. I said, look, this is what the guy's doing. I got court-ordered visitation to watch it. The lady testified. She noticed there was a problem.
Now, I note for the record, we have not mentioned her ex-husband's name. He is not here to give his side of this story. What we're hearing is Evelyn's recounting of the facts as she remembers them, as she believes they happened. That doesn't necessarily mean that that is absolutely accurate. Let's assume it is accurate for a second, though, Dr. Fishoff. Why do they stay with people who are so patently abusive, such losers?
Well, I think it's hard for us to comprehend that. Objectively, you say, you just get rid of the guy, and if you have to, you get a contract out on him. But they're caught up in a different kind of emotional system than we are. And that's part of the problem, which is that there's a desperation that's attached to that relationship. And the idea of, we think you just get out. They can't, because they're hooked in a way that we can't comprehend. And that's important to understand. It doesn't make sense to us because it's not sensible given our point of view, but it is sensible given her point of view.
Okay, the question I want to ask is, both of the young ladies said that they have been naive. Haven't your parents ever taught you or anything when you was younger, 17, that if anybody invaded your body in any way, whether you've been going out with them for 3 years, and you say no to fight back, why not tell?
The way I viewed a rape is if it was a stranger or somebody I didn't know, and that's how I viewed rape. And that's how my mother taught me. If somebody...
That would be a stranger in the night, someone
Right.
in a dark alley.
Well, not necessarily in a dark alley, but somebody I just didn't know, and that's how I was brought up. It wasn't very commonplace to know, or it wasn't common knowledge to know the person that would do something like that.
Did you talk about it to anyone other than him, obviously?
A few of my friends.
And what was their advice?
They just said, yeah, I wrestled off some other, they would just talk about some instances that they experienced too. It wasn't that, I found out then that it wasn't that uncommon.
Well, I just heard last week in Syracuse University there were 2 campus rapes. I wonder what will happen as a result of those. Go ahead.
I want to add another bizarre story that might help illuminate something. One of my students came to me and told me that she'd been having a sexual relationship with her father for 30 years. Her mother was dead. She's living with her father. She is now going on to get a PhD in order to give her father therapy, and she's still having sex with him. Oh. The whole thing seems totally plausible to her. It seems plausible.
Okay, if you want to hear bizarre, we have to get to your story, Ellie. She's not exactly married to or marrying her rapist, but she is herself a rape victim in her distant past. She is engaged to marry a man who now stands accused of not only raping a 52-year-old woman in Connecticut, but also a 15-year-old girl up in Canada, where he fled from Connecticut and is now being held pending trial there. I know you may have a different set of facts now, but first let's run a videotape of the suspect in these 2 rapes, a man who was on America's Most Wanted and was subsequently apprehended after the Connecticut state troopers were searching for him. He was apprehended by officials, I believe, in Canada. Here he is. It's in Toronto. He is, as you can see, a relatively good-looking guy. I mean, these are the guards. You'll see him in a second coming out. Here he is.
Fred, you gonna try it again?
Fred Merrill, isn't it? Really? Yeah, here he is. He was just asked by one of the reporters if he's going to try it again. Now, what was it about this guy, Haley, that so caught your eye? Was it the obvious fact that he's a good-looking fellow in fairly good shape?
No, not in the least.
Okay, you tell us that.
I have to set the record straight. I met Fred Merrill in September of 1987. And
when did he escape from
Connecticut? August
Connecticut
of 87.
So you met him when he was a fugitive?
Mm-hmm.
That's your story now. Let's assume that you're telling the truth. When you met him, did you know that he was a fugitive?
No, I didn't.
From a rape case?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
I knew him.
Do you tell us now that you fell for the guy then when he was out on the lam, so to speak?
Yes, I did.
Okay, then I want you to pick up the story and tell us, after he was apprehended by the officials in Canada, after you knew that he was charged with very strong evidence in not 1 but 2 rapes, why you are choosing now to marry this man. I must ask you to hold the story. We have to take a commercial break. Haley, the story of the courtship, the engagement and subsequent prison marriage to a 2-time accused rapist is next. We'll be back after this. He allegedly rapes in Connecticut, arrested, charged. He escapes. You say you met him then. For the record, the next year, he is arrested in Canada, charged with the rape of the teenage girl, brought into custody. He escapes a 2nd time. Why? Why fall in love with a man who cops in 2 countries feel is a felony rapist? In one case, a middle-aged woman. In another case, a teenage girl.
I must explain that when he was captured in New Brunswick, he wasn't charged.
The
He was
Atlantic
just
provinces in Canada.
right. He was a suspect, and the whole situation is circumstantial, basically. I'm not going to get into it.
Okay,
because
we
there's
appreciate that you believe... Do you believe he's innocent?
Absolutely.
Okay.
No question.
For the record, Haley believes the man is innocent. Cops in 2 countries don't think so. He escapes from Canada. Did you see him when he was on the lam that second time?
Did I see him when he was on the lam? Just now, no, I didn't. No, I didn't.
So now he's back in custody in Canada, and you see him quite frequently, do you not?
Yes.
I mean, do you go up to the prison? Do you have visitation? I mean, how do you work it out?
Twice a week, I see him. And basically, right now, what I'm doing is independently, I'm collecting evidence to prove his innocence.
Why have you decided to marry a man who is facing a minimum of 15 years in prison in Canada and then has to come and stand trial here in Connecticut?
Well, that's all it may be. I have to explain that...
Why do you love him?
Why do I love him? Because when I really met him, I know what his character is like, and I've never met a person that has a more tender character than him. I've never met anybody the most gentlest soul that I've ever seen. He was caught up in a circumstance when he was very young, 19, and he was imprisoned for something that was, you know, wrongfully done by, but basically he spent all his time in prison.
Was he an armed robber?
No, he wasn't.
What was he in jail for the first time?
Break and enter.
Okay.
And the circumstances were such...
Is that the only time he's ever been arrested before the 2 rapes?
Basically, that was the whole crux of the matter right at the beginning. And the circumstances were such that when he was about 16, there was a car that was stolen, and it was a circumstance, too. He did not do it, but he took a lot of things onto himself.
I'm a lot less interested in Fred Merrill's hard childhood than I am in the curious question of why you're in love with a man now behind bars and in an awful lot of trouble for 2 rape charges. Why? Did you see him on television, as we have been led to believe? Did he, when he was out, an escaped accused felon, did he somehow charm you? Why do you love a man despised by so many?
I guess all my life I've searched for my own answer for being here. And what I find is throughout life there's a cycle of pain, and it takes on many forms. And we don't address it. That's the main essence of life. And what I'm doing is taking a huge step in my lifetime, and I want to address it rather than run away. Because I think that's what we do time and time again. We don't know how to deal with pain. And the only way to do it is take yourself together.
Whose pain are you talking about, for God's
The world's pain. Every
You're
single
going to marry
person,
an accused rapist to heal the world's pain?
Basically, when you see the book that we're writing, you'll comprehend what we're talking about.
And you're going to get married to the guy in November?
Yes, I will.
Okay. We'll hear another point of view on the character of her affianced, this beloved man now accused of rape. And, you know, I don't want to put you on the spot. That's not what this program is about. I'm trying to understand how you're doing something that you admit is a very curious thing.
Right.
Okay. Women who marry their rapists, or in the case that we are hearing now, who marry men accused of raping other women. Our focus. We'll be right back. Joining us right now on the telephone is Sergeant Louis Lacaprucia. He's a Connecticut State Trooper who was in charge of hunting down Haley's affianced, Fred Merrill, back in 1987 after he escaped from Summers County Prison in Summers, Connecticut. Okay, Sergeant, what kind of guy is Fred Merrill in your opinion?
Freddie Merrill, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. He's been categorized as your classic career criminal. He's graduated from auto theft and burglary up to rape, escape, various assaults, numerous felonies. He's an evil guy.
Any idea as a professional cop, I know you're not a sociologist, but why do you think Haley fell for the guy?
Well,
and why do you think he's now decided to get married to her? Any speculation?
Well, I wasn't quite sure what her angle exactly was. I think if I was in Fred Merrill's position, I was in prison, and I had somebody offering to help me, give me money, clothing, and support, I'd probably fall in love pretty quick myself. And a little light went off when I heard some of what she said about when we write this book. I don't know if that enters into it. Might ask Haley that.
All right, stand by. I'll do exactly that. Haley, is it not at least remotely possible that this cunning person, some might say this fox, a man now facing these very serious charges, who's facing potentially most of the rest of his life in prison, isn't it possible that he has latched onto you as a savior, as a person who, in the sergeant's words, will bring him, who knows, a hacksaw and a loaf of bread? I'm talking figuratively speaking, of course. Isn't it possible that he's using you?
Absolutely not.
Why not, Evelyn?
Well, I think a lot of people want to feel as if he's evil. And that's society's problem. We want to malign everyone else but ourselves. And he's been termed a career criminal. And I think that's the most absurd thing I've ever heard. Because if you really find out the true story, that's why we have to write this book. And Sergeant Louis is part of this book. Nobody really understands him. We don't understand ourselves if we don't deal with a lot of things. And basically, Fred has spent a lot of time in prison for escaping. That's basically why he spent time. And he's certainly not a career criminal, because I could throw it right back to society and say, society is a career criminal, because we've never looked at the aspect, and that's what I'm trying to bring out in this book. We are daily being a time bomb, each and every one of us.
What do you do with the 52-year-old woman in your state there, Sergeant?
Well, what he's accused of, certainly I can't comment much on that case. As you know, it needs to be adjudicated as of yet. There are allegations. If I could just say something, I didn't want to get into an adversarial debate with Haley Otis. I can just tell you some facts about Freddie that cannot be disputed. Freddie's kidnapped at gunpoint correctional officers and forced them into a trunk. On one of his escapes, he slashed a police officer in the face with a knife. He was shot in that escape. Fred himself, he's been convicted for numerous crimes as well as what he's been convicted for in Canada. I think what she's saying is she has no faith in our criminal justice system and or Canada's. She prefaced her conversation by saying she doesn't believe he's guilty. I would say, knowing that, how are we going to show her that or prove that to her? Would that change anything? I don't know.
Women who marry their rapists. In Haley Otis's case, a woman who wants to marry a man accused of raping two others. That's our focus. The discussion continues after this commercial break. Stay with us.
For free tickets to Geraldo, please write Geraldo, Times Square Station, Post Office Box 684, New York, New York, 10108. Please send a self-addressed stamped envelope or call 212-265-1283.
Let me just note for the record that we've been identifying Haley Otis as a woman in love with the rapist. He is not convicted. She is a woman in love with an accused rapist, for the record, I stated.
Okay, I have a question for Haley. When you first found out that he was an accused rapist, why didn't you get out then? What made you stay?
I didn't quite hear you.
Why did you stay with him when you found out that he was indeed facing the charge of rape?
Why didn't I?
Why didn't you leave him?
What attracted you to him?
Oh, because I got to know him.
Possible.
I got to know who he is.
But how did you get to know him first, and then he said, listen, by the way, I'm accused of raping a 52-year-old woman in Connecticut? I mean, how did he break the news? How did he break the news to you?
I found out by the TV.
You did find out by
Yeah.
television.
And that, right.
By then
I
he
did.
was already in custody.
Mm-hmm.
And you still stayed?
Absolutely. I'll never...
Why? Why did you stay?
Because he's
What
innocent.
attracted you?
What attracted
You know,
me?
he was innocent on television. I mean, when he talked to you, he didn't even admit that he was a rapist, right?
Right. But
And then
I
you
know...
saw him on television, he was accused, and you said, oh, he's innocent. I mean, did you ask about the evidence or anything like that?
Yes, I did. I've gone through it very
I mean, but
extensively
when you
on my
just,
own.
when the
Sorry?
light went off in your head that there he is on television, I love this man,
Mm-hmm.
you certainly hadn't reviewed the evidence by then.
No, but I knew him, basically. You
So
know, like...
you
in
just
depth.
figured that he couldn't possibly have done it.
Yes.
My question for Haley is, I think it's very nice that you want to believe him, but with all the evidence pointing towards him, what is your life going to be like with him after you marry him, if he's convicted or if he's not? Are you aware of what your life's going to be like with him?
Absolutely. I'm taking the biggest step of my life. I couldn't do any more of my work because I was questioning what I was doing on this earth, and all I was doing was existing. I was doing mundane things for money, you know, like making a lot of money for things that I didn't like to be doing. It was the choice of my clients. And I want to do something very, how do you say, assertive. I want to have a reason for being. And all of us, basically, I find in this society, on this planet, are basically parasites. We have not given anything. And we have to...
Haley, please, save the philosophy because
Okay.
I don't think...
A question to Evelyn. After making your decision for marriage, did it occur to you your husband would rape again?
No, it didn't occur to me. It didn't occur.
Dr. Fishoff, when we come back after the commercial break, I want you to try and give us a summary. In a sense, we understand Marilyn's case, as sad as it is probably the most logical. Evelyn's case is, you know, maybe naivete. You can give us a brief review on your feelings on Haley Otis. And Sergeant Louis, if we have another couple of minutes, I'd like to hear from you, too. Be right back. We're going to marry the rapist. In 30 seconds or less, Haley Otis wants to marry Fred Merrill. Why?
Haley Otis lives in a different reality than most of us do. I think that that Evelyn is a woman child, and she's starting to perhaps get a grasp on what it is to be a woman rather than a child.
Finally, Marilyn?
And Marilyn has made it.
Thank you, ladies. Really. We may not understand totally, but we definitely sympathize. And Marilyn, congratulations. Dr. Fisher, thanks. Louis, La Capucha, thank you on the telephone. Thank you for being here. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Bye-bye.